I want to dive a little deeper here and really get into understanding why a potential customer of yours who has been buying for someone for 30 years, then they look at what you have. What is the clear value proposition or the major incentives or features that draw them in towards you being like, hey, this is a viable option for what we do. And it works for us long term.
Question. So first, it matters who we're trying to sell to. So there's a couple segments that we're targeting. So let's start with the end users of motors. So think about some of the world's largest shipping companies or e-commerce distributors. You can imagine you go into one of those fulfillment centers, one of those distribution warehouses, and there are hundreds, if not thousands of motors in there. So if you are that company and you're looking at your operating expenses month over month, what you're likely seeing is that electricity as a total fraction of what you're spending, electricity is going up and up and up, just like for us, right? And your home utility bill. Energy efficiency is on the mind of people, CFOs and controllers, and even plant managers that are looking to get their operating expenses under control. And when you look at how much electricity gets consumed by motors in one of those facilities, it can be as high as 70%. So if I've got 70% of my facility load going into motors, and motors are in the application they're in are only delivering 60 to 65, maybe 70% net energy efficiency, there is a lot of room to improve. This is very similar to what happened with LED light bulbs 10 years ago. So everyone transitioned from compact fluorescent light bulbs to LED light bulbs because at the end of the day, when you flip the light switch on, you just want light to happen and you want it to happen with the least amount of kilowatt hours. And so that is really the value proposition that we're bringing. We're building a motor, it plugs in, you turn it on, and it produces torque, and it does it with less energy consumption. Now, there are secondary, tertiary value propositions here. The lack of, well, no rare earth metals, 90% less copper produces, a design that is much more robust against supply chain disruptions. The motors that we have do not produce or produce very, very little heat as compared to a traditional motor. So that reduces HVAC loads in buildings, particularly if you're in the south, or if you're in just a hotter climate where you're running air conditioning more often. Our motors are unique in that they do not require a gearbox. And so in these industrial applications, the entire drivetrain is really a motor that spins at a couple thousand RPM, and then a gearbox, which slows that rotational speed down to what the conveyor belt actually needs. And a lot of the failure modes, a lot of the efficiency losses are in that gearbox. And so by producing a machine that replaces both motor and gearbox, we're able to deliver a direct drive performance. So motor directly to the load, delivering the needed torque at the speed. And that presents a simpler system, requires less maintenance, and just makes things easier for the maintenance managers at these facilities. So there are multiple value propositions, but first and foremost, when people look at their utility bills and they're thinking about how am I going to improve my operating expenses, electricity is usually number one or number two on their list, and motors are the highest problem that they can solve. And that's exactly where we fit in.
Perfect. A follow-up question to that, and I know we'll get a little bit more deeper into this with your go-to-market strategy as you're building this out, but at the end of the day, the zero mag motor is going to be more expensive, the same price, less expensive when the customer is evaluating. They can save energy. Probably, I'm assuming it's going to cost a little bit more, but the savings will offset that in a certain amount of years. Kind of a traditional clean tech kind of go-to-market strategy. What's the numbers there?
No, you hit it on the head. So we're pricing ourselves as a premium motor. We're not going to be the most expensive, but we certainly are not going to price ourselves of like, hey, open up a McMaster car or a Granger catalog and buy the cheapest motor. That's not where we're going to fit. We've got some flexibility. Again, we're replacing both motor and gearbox. So the appropriate comparison is, okay, what's the price of that traditional motor? What's the price of that traditional gearbox? And that's where we want to price ourselves. We're going to be roughly a 20 to 25% premium over um, the the kind of generic status quo system. And with the energy savings that we have, you're going to see an ROI in 12 to 24 months. Total cost of ownership savings could be as high as 30%. It could be as low as 15%. And that really depends on the cost of electricity and where the motor is going to be installed. you're in California or Massachusetts or Germany, that ROI is within a year. Um, if you're in Iowa or here in Wisconsin where utility rates are lower, you're looking at closer to 2 years. But both of, even if it's 2 years, that fits the window of ROI that people are looking at.